How do you want to feel on results day? It could be the best day of your life. It could equally be filled with regret. What if I just tried a bit harder? I'm not here to stress you out, but rather to remind you that it's still all within your control. How willing are you to dedicate your time? How willing are you to work hard in class? How willing are you to believe in yourself? I've been in the same boat, at GCSE and at A level, and it was around this time of year when I knuckled down. Luckily, I managed to get some pretty good grades along the way. With flex, but okay. While I would say I've been gifted with some smart genes, there are definitely things I've done that aren't necessarily taught in class that have helped me to achieve those grades even when the odds were against me, making some big improvements from rocks. So, let's get into the tips. Alright, my first tip is to work smarter, not harder. None of us want to work non-stop. It's not healthy. We want to have a life, see our friends, we want to do extracurriculars, have some downtime. Everyone needs a break. The tip is to use your time most effectively. A wise woman once said we only have 24 hours in a day. That's a joke, by the way. But you want to plan out your time ahead. So you want to see, okay, what would be the most effective use of my time here? It's easy to spend a lot of time making pretty flashcards, but I feel like there's more effective use of time. I could be testing my knowledge using resources online. And another way to use your time effectively is to spot what you need to work on. Maybe there was something that came up in class that you're not so sure about. Maybe there's a certain topic or a subject. A lot of the time we focus on the subjects that we actually enjoy and that we're good at because it gives us a good feeling. But it's important to work on those weaknesses. Second tip is to do the homework, but to actually do it. And by that I mean actually try. There's so many people that just half-ass their homework, and it's just a waste of your time, and it's a waste of the teacher's time marking it. You're being sent that homework for a reason. Chances a question maybe the exact same as that, or maybe very similar, might come up in the exam, and I don't know, if you just did not try that much on that homework, when it does come up, you're gonna be kicking yourself. I've literally had so many times during my GCSEs and A level where I've seen a question, I'm like, well, I'm so prepared for this because I literally had it for homework. And because I tried on that homework, my teacher could give me good feedback, and it meant using all of that, I was so much more likely to be able to get a full mark answer. Now I know this may not always apply because sometimes you might get stupid homework like back in GCSE where you have to stick some pieces of paper into your book, but this rule generally applies. Alright, this next tip kind of links in, but do practice questions. You've probably heard it so much, probably because it's so true. Literally, I honestly do think this is the most important tip of all. The main thing I did was just practice papers, because once you understand the mark scheme, you have such an upper hand when it comes to actually answering questions, because you know what sort of answer they want. They're looking for these specific words and phrases which get you those few extra marks on each question, and they add up. Literally, they can be the difference between you being between an A or an A star or an 8 or a 9. It's so important. And by doing practice questions, you can see what you need to work on. Oh, maybe I got this wrong on this topic, so I'm going to do even more practice questions on those. And there's so many great resources out there, like physics, maths tutor, I use that all the time. They literally have topic-based questions as well. So if you're not so sure about a topic, Bob's your uncle. And the exam boards also release past papers. They're so useful. So yeah, just get on it. Alright, next tip. I'm not sure if many people do this, but you need to look at the specification and go through every little bit of the specification. Highlight bits that you're not so sure about and tick off the ones that you feel like you're pretty strong at, because this gives a huge indicator of what kind of content you might still need to learn. And I don't know, you might have some crap teachers who just haven't covered certain topics or whatever. So this can really come in clutch to make sure that you're fully aware of any sort of thing that might come up in the exam. Another tip is to actually pay attention in class. I know some of you might have the attention span of a fly, but what are you going to do when it comes to listening to uni lectures if you can't sit through a 1 hour class? That was not a personal attack, but come on guys. If you actually focus in class, it means that you probably won't have to spend about 2 hours after every lesson trying to understand what you were actually having a lesson on. It can save you so much time. And make sure, if you're unclear about a certain topic or you have a question, actually go up to a teacher. They're here to help, you know? Like, don't be too intimidated. I feel like this one is pretty obvious, but make sure you're actually revising well for the mocks. I think this has become clear during COVID because doing well in your mocks actually helped you do well in the real thing because it was part of the grade. But, I mean, come on, if you're actually revising well for the mocks, it means you can figure out what you don't know. And it means you're already learning that content, so when you need to relearn it for the actual thing, it's going to be so much easier to remember. And you've got to remember, after the mocks, there's even more content to learn. So it'd be nicer, come the exam, you only have to focus on mostly the new content rather than the whole thing, which some of you probably crammed the night before. But another great tip is to make the most of all the resources out there online. I mean, there's so many. You've got YouTube, internet, apps. We're so fortunate to have all these different options. Subscribe to those YouTube channels, download those apps. And I'd say definitely get the CGP textbooks for your subject. They're such big help. Thank me later. This should be an ad, honestly. But yeah, and they have jokes in there which are quite fun. And make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel for your daily motivation because you need someone who's just gonna keep you accountable, right? This one's gonna help you not just to do well on these exams, but for life in general. Work on your mindset. Visualize you achieving those grades. You need to believe you can do it. I believe you can do it. You need to believe you can do it. And don't think of it as this massive mountain because it's so possible, definitely achievable, if you put the hard work in. I know there's going to be days that you don't feel like it. You've got to be disciplined. Try for as long as you can, but do remember, if you need breaks, you take them. Like, it's a marathon, not a sprint at the end of the day. And most important of all, just remember, the grades don't define you and success is relative. You might be so happy with B's. It's all relative at the end of the day. As long as we can help you get into your dream uni or whatever you want to do next year, dream career, dream apprenticeship, whatever, just believe you can do it. I'm sure you can. And even if you don't, you're so much better than those grades. I'm going to pray for you on results day.